Chris Long went off on people on Twitter. He is one of the players who has came out and said that he is not going to the White House for the Patriots victory tour. By the way, you call it a victory tour?
You get invited.
Around, you see the Oval Office and all that stuff. You see the guy that's sitting in there, unfortunately.
Who's sitting in there? Steve Bannon?
Steve Bannon. And there we've lost 7 subscribers. All right. So, yeah, let's get to Twitter and see what Chris Long had to say on this matter, and we'll touch on the situation. So he said, heard it all this week. If you don't want to hear about some of the dumb shit I've heard, mute away. But it's good. Rapid fire time, yeah? Yeah.
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 And we move. Respect the office. Okay, Bertha theory guy. All right, next. Stick to football. You don't look like a state senator yourself there, bud. I hope they cut you. I'm a free agent. Stop being self-important. I'm no longer a fan. I'm self-important, but you thought this was important enough to bring to my attention, eh?
He's also Canadian.
Hey, you hate the troops. The secondary focus of my foundation, out of 2 causes, is veteran support. Do your research, also not relatable.
That's like the best part. Do your research, also this has nothing to do with not going to the White House.
And then we go...
We got a couple more.
Couple more. You should go talk to Trump if you want change. I'm skipping a photo op, not a congressional hearing.
Touche, Chris Long, touche.
Good one.
Is that it? Oh, this one. I like this one the best.
Left. This guy's name. What a shocker. Another wealthy celebrity out of touch with reality.
Dick Slaughter.
Dick Slaughter. This is... I love this story because it goes right in line with a recent video I just did where it crossed over politics. I didn't cross it with sports. I did mention Kaepernick a little bit.
You have to in all your videos.
Yeah, of course. You have to.
There's
it's
a quota
like
we're trying to hit
I have
here.
to say it. But it was a video where I talked about Ashton Kutcher and how the amazing things that he's doing, which he's not just doing as a result of Donald Trump. He's been doing it for like 4 years, where he's got his organization.
You're talking about
the
shut your effing mouth celebrity. Keep being a celebrity. You have no business having an opinion in America because you're a celebrity, so you have nothing to really offer us.
You don't care, basically. Yeah.
Oh, well, no, it's not that you don't care. You shouldn't care because you're supposed to do your job while everybody else is supposed to do theirs.
Yeah, it's very true, and it's unfortunate. This is another example where the Patriots players, many of them have basically came out and said that they're not going to go to the White House. This is not rare, as Jason brought to my attention a while ago as well. Tom Brady didn't go to the White House when Barack Obama was there. He had
a family thing!
Issues, which he then went to Under Armour the next day, and someone photographed him. There's a perfect picture where someone
he didn't have a family thing on the Under Armour day.
Of course not. So I have mixed opinions on this. A lot of people are calling out on Patriots players to come out and not go as a means of protesting. And they're like, you shouldn't be going to this. I'm split on that. I don't think you should be telling players whether they should or should not go. But I absolutely think that you should not be condemning someone for invoking their right to dismiss this and not want to go because they don't stand for certain things. And I did do a video on this where it talked about it a little bit where people were like simply breaking it down to the smallest issue. Like Martellus Bennett, they were coming out when he said he just didn't want to go there. And then LeGarrette Blount was saying he's not welcome in that house. And people were like, what do you mean you're not welcome? You got invited. And he's not talking about himself personally. He's talking about people like him. He's talking about black citizens in this country who are not going to benefit at the moment, definitely not so from a Donald Trump presidency. He's talking about the black family that was brutalized in Texas by a white police officer with a racist point of view. That's who he's talking about is not accepted right now. Not him himself. And it's the same thing with Kaepernick. He was protesting against the oppression in the Justice Department, and people are like, what have you got to be complaining about? You're rich. You had white parents. As if they think they're protesting directly about them. Like the only way you can care about anyone in the world is if it directly affects you. It's so ridiculous. If someone goes and gets shot in the street in Scotland right now for an unjust cause, I didn't get shot in the street, but you think I'm not going to care about that? I'm not going to get outraged and I'm not going to say something about it? It's so stupid. Where people think because they have a bigger paycheck, especially when they voted for someone who's got a bigger paycheck than anyone. The biggest paycheck. Fuck me, man.
Yeah, dude, you're angry young man.
I've got a lot of fire.
Well, you're older than me, so angry like quarter-life crisis, man. No, you're making fantastic points, and you can go and check out those videos.
Thanks.
There's a few of them, and they're all good. Don't watch the Tommy ones though, not because we don't want to give her.
She
any more
was
credit.
involved in that recent celebrity one, so you're gonna have to see it.
Watch the sports ones because I love sports, and they cross over between sports and politics. So just do it for me, right? Not for him. Do it for me. Chance the Rapper in his Grammy performance, right? He did a song called "How Great," which is a very gospelly rooted religious song in its way, because he, for one, has a gospel choir sing the background of it. But one of the things that he does mention during his verse is, if you go to my city, everyone would say, and they know, I wish I had this verse exactly as is, but he says, go to my city and everyone's my cousin, right? They said that they know him because everyone's my cousin, right? So he's speaking on the behalf of Chicago. And his whole point of that, or part of the point of that, is that if someone does get killed in Chicago, he looks at it as his family, right? And everybody has a different definition for family. Some people grew up with underprivileged, unfortunate lives. Other people grow up with extremely fortunate positions. They were born into that. Everyone's born into that. You don't have a choice of what family you're born into. That's why I've always said the luckiest thing about James Dolan is the family he was born into. The luckiest thing about Donald Trump is the family he was born into. But when it comes back and you realize that you don't have to, it's a pretty ignorant thing to think that if it doesn't have any direct effect on you, well then, why should you care? Well, that's actually one of the roots of the biggest problems at hand. So Chris Long doesn't want to go to the White House. Chris Long has some fun time on Twitter, and what I think is amazing is he just simply points out constant hypocrisy. No thing much better than the "you hate the troops."
That's insane.
It's like, to me, this is one of those things where it's what do they do they do this on some mainstream media. They do it a lot depending on which way you lean, in terms of you want to make your art. It's like deflection.
Oh, absolutely.
Instead of talking about the point at hand, it's my choice. I don't want to go to the White House because I don't want to go to the White House. It's you hate the troops. They don't have anything to do with each other. And I do love the line, do your research, because not a lot of people would care to take 5 minutes to look up what Chris Long has done for so many people outside himself. Because of the platform and the money he makes, he's able to give back. It's his choice to give back, and he does. So it's ridiculous to me that, other people have boycotted the White House, but now it's because of you hate the troops, or because of that, or this, or this.
How many people have taken 5 minutes out of their time in the past 6 months to look at what Kaepernick did after his protest? You know, those ones that were like, oh, what about black on black crime in Chicago? Well, he knows about that because he donates, that $1 million pledge that he made, that he's making every month and posting on his website. You can go to it. I've looked at it extensively, kaepernick7.com. He breaks it down as to what money he's assigning, down to like almost times $100. $100 to this, $1,000 to that. So he's being consistent, and he's telling you, no, I'm not just going to say something and not be consistent. So if you're going to preach to me about black on black crime in Chicago, I know that's an issue. That's what he's saying. That's why I'm trying to help and try to put money into grassroots programs to educate youth. His own program right now, Know Your Rights Camp, is to enlighten the youth about their rights constitutionally when they come into an altercation with law enforcement. But no one cares about that because they just would rather deflect, as you mentioned, Jason. And the same thing, this is another example. People are like, why is Kaepernick involved in this? It's the exact same thing. It's the same ideas of deflection that unfortunately come from mouthpieces like Tommy Lahren, and unfortunately reiterated by higher up people on the right, the Bill O'Reillys and the Sean Hannity's, where they're like, he doesn't care about the troops. Well, the troops had a response when everyone said that Kaepernick didn't believe in the troops or didn't want to stand for them. Remember the veterans for Kaepernick that came around? There was a lot of them. There was also some that were against him. That's fine.
I would say I'd actually, in terms of that one, to be more specific, I think that it was nice that there was a hashtag veterans for Kaepernick. I do think there were more troops who were against it. However, not to pick, between apples and oranges, it's just that the one that got lifted was the feel good veterans for Kaepernick. The one that got buried was the veterans against Kaepernick, because there was one. And I'm not saying I agree with veterans against Kaepernick. I'm just saying that it was prevalent.
The people that were speaking out for them, they were speaking out for them on their behalf, almost as if they were on the front lines with them. A lot of these people that are using their mouthpieces.
I shared the story months ago. Don't ever pretend you can empathize or sympathize with a soldier that's been on the front lines. You can't. You can't sit there and say, I know what that's like, unless you were one, and then by all means, speak your mind. I'm going to end on this. I think that we'd rather, not we, but as a whole, most people would rather talk about anything except the issue at hand. And that's what happens with so many of these stories that get tangented and brought into different categories and topics of conversation. rather talk about anything except the actual issue at hand.
And this is not out of character for Chris Long either. Look into his football career this season and look into the issues that he has stood up for. And it's not regardless of whether he's black, white, whatever. This is a guy that just simply stands up for injustice, and he did it during the season as well, and he doesn't feel the need to over-explain it and give you his reasonings as to why he was with Kaepernick during the season or whatever he was doing. Like, he's just a man that stands for his beliefs, and the hypocrisy that he faces, he just likes to call out, so I appreciate that.
Boom, below.